Hey everybody, David Harrelson here, and this is my week 3 speech class video, my instructional video. Before we get started, I want to say thank you to my stepdaughter Darby, who is my camera person for this video, so I'm hoping that my video quality will be better than in my previous videos. For my instructional topic, I chose tourniquets. And I'm sure you're thinking, why do I need to know about a tourniquet? Well, I'm going to tell you. When I started as a police officer 17 years ago, tourniquets weren't even on the radar. It wasn't something we were trained in police academy. It wasn't something that we routinely carried in our vehicles. But unfortunately, due to circumstances and the times we live in, and some progress in technology, tourniquets have become more prevalent, especially in the military and law enforcement world, and now they're making their way into the civilian world as part of everybody's everyday first aid kit. And they are important to know how to use. A very valuable tool. I'll give you a little brief history on tourniquets in general. Tourniquets have been used in military settings since the Civil War, and they are used to prevent blood loss leading to death. And the most common cause of death that is preventable in a battlefield setting is exsanguination through an extremity, or rapid blood loss through an extremity leading to death. So they recognized this, battlefield doctors recognized this years ago and said, hey, if we can shut off blood flow to the extremity, that will prevent the exsanguination. I'll give you a little brief history of this particular tourniquet, which is the one I'll be talking about today. And this is known as the CAT tourniquet. Now, CAT is an acronym for Combat Applied Tourniquet, and it is produced by a company called North American Rescue. It is essentially the standard in law enforcement, military, and now civilian settings. I'm going to talk about some features of the tourniquet. Let's go over some nomenclature with you, some of the parts and pieces that make up the tourniquet. You can see here, this is comprised of a nylon band. This is a nylon band that I don't know if you can see in the video, but it's a Velcro on one side and smooth on the other. And then up here we have a buckle, a windlass, a retention clip for that windlass, a time strap, and perhaps the windlass here, and perhaps the most important part you can't even really see, is another piece of webbing that runs inside this one called the circumferential band. And the circumferential band is what is actually tightening. Now, the purpose of a tourniquet is to press a severed artery against a bone. And what that does is closes that artery off and prevents the exsanguination or rapid blood loss that we were talking about. So I'll get this set up and demonstrate how to properly use the tourniquet. When we're talking about application of a tourniquet, and I will demonstrate it on myself, but some instances where you might use a tourniquet, because I'm sure you're still thinking, where would I, as someone not involved in law enforcement or military, use a tourniquet? Well, there are several occasions. Any puncture wound that causes serious blood loss through an extremity. We've seen them used on accidental amputations. Could be an industrial accident or a motor vehicle accident where there's an amputation, or any penetrating wound to an extremity that causes rapid blood loss. It could be an arm or a leg. Now, to apply the tourniquet, it takes some practice. It's something that you need to be familiar with. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you. If my left arm was injured, you would open the tourniquet and place it high. We call this high or die. That's the easy way to remember it, because we want to get above the wound that has caused the hemorrhage. We're going to pull this red tab, and we always pull the red tab towards the heart. Okay, that's the easy way to remember it. Red goes toward the heart, and we're going to pull as hard as we can. And what that does is that starts to put tension on that buckle and on the band. We're going to wrap around, and you can hear that Velcro tightening. Then we're going to start twisting the windlass. 1, and if you've pulled the tourniquet tight, you probably won't get more than 2 to 3 turns on your windlass. And you can see I'm really struggling to get that third turn. We're going to put it in the clip. We're going to wrap this strap over it and close it around. That will help when you're transporting the victim or when you yourself are being transported. And I understand that in a civilian setting, you probably won't be responsible for transport, but the paramedics that are will appreciate this because they have to make sure that that tourniquet maintains tightness. We're going to close this, the time strap, and if we can, write a time on there. That is for surgeon purposes. They like to know how long the tourniquet has been in place. Now, I know you're not going to be able to see this on the video, but if you decide to incorporate this into your first aid kit, one way you can tell whether or not the tourniquet is working is for you to squeeze your fist and then open it, and you should see a delay in blood flow back to your hands. That's called capillary refill, and you shouldn't see any because you have cut off the blood, and I can feel my arm tingling now, so I'm going to take it off. These can be applied in the same manner to your leg or to a victim's leg, but one thing to consider when applying it to a leg is that it will take usually more than one tourniquet on an average size adult male. What you'll want to do is put the tourniquets side by side on the victim's leg and then apply them as you would on the arms. So I encourage everybody to investigate further into tourniquets and incorporate them into your everyday first aid. The situations where you would need it as a civilian are going to be rare, but it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Thank you.